there are reports, and I believe it because there's only 3 people that have mentioned that they want to fight Brock Lesnar. One of them is Roman Reigns, who supposedly they're going to try to hold that off for next year's WrestleMania. The other is Braun Strowman, who he's now going to have surgery, so he's out of the loop for at least 2 months. The third, who has mentioned that he wants Brock Lesnar, is the guy who never lost the Universal title, and that's Finn Balor. But I think I probably agree with you and what you're going to say here, that just doesn't look right.
It would look ridiculous. It would be impossible to suspend disbelief with Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar. And Finn's a great worker with a great persona, but he's a cruiserweight. He's visibly a lighter weight wrestler, extremely lighter weight wrestler. What could he possibly do in the way of offense to logically make Brock Lesnar sell? And the answer to that is absolutely nothing. What they should do with Finn Balor is book him the way that New Japan used to book Jushin Liger when he was in his prime. He is the dominant cruiserweight champion who occasionally, and more than occasionally, wrestles heavyweights and beats the lower to middle level ones, extends the top ones to their limits before losing, or the occasional draw, although WWE has never really done draws. But Lesnar can't be one of those guys.
Yeah.
It'll just be ridiculous. Nobody will buy into it, but that shows the way WWE approaches the audience it wants to serve. All the WWE cares about now are the internet fans, the smart marks, the people who can, don't care about suspending disbelief, who have grown up without kayfabe and just look at Balor. They're always this great worker. Remember what he did with New Japan Bullet Club? And they'll buy into it because it's Finn Balor. But the casual fan, they just get chased away by the illogic, the absolute illogic, the sham of a guy that small making a guy that big sell for him.
I'll get back to Balor's match in 1 second. The only past thing we can really pull from with Brock, at least since they started booking Brock the way they have since he beat The Undertaker, is he did have a match with Seth Rollins in the past, but it's probably the same situation. It's just that there's nothing that Rollins really can do. Even with Rollins' speed, there's nothing that he can do to make
Rollins isn't as small as Finn Balor.
True.
He's small, but Finn Balor's tiny.
True. The only thing I can think, and again, this is all in the assumption if they do go, let's say, SummerSlam with Finn versus Brock, the only thing I can think that would logically make it work would be a strength in numbers, and the fact that everybody wants Finn to be associated with Gallows and Anderson because of their history in Japan is that at least if you basically make it 3-on-1, that at least could try to have.
Well, once again, there's the smart marks being super served. Because believe me,
but that's the only way you can. That's
the average fan who turns on Raw or SmackDown has no idea about the past association with Balor and Anderson and Gallows and even the Bullet Club.
Yeah, well, but they will educate them on that. You know that they will educate. But think about it. But to you, I agree with your point, Mark. But if they are determined to do that match, that's the only way around it is to try to make it a strength. To try to make it a strength in numbers. I mean,
well, then go ahead and do it. But it's another example of them just. I don't want to say killing the business because, they're making money off the smart marks. The smart marks, there aren't very many of them compared to the days of mainstream acceptance of WWE. But the smaller audience is spending more money per person than the mainstream audience ever possibly could have, would have.
Yeah.
But this is the audience that grew up without any kayfabe. There was no kayfabe with these people in their lives. They think it's all about the internet and being smartened up and talking about promos and work rate and 5-star matches. They don't think about two guys getting in there to have a fight. And in the casual audience, that's what they wanted to see, a believable fight between two guys who had issues or were competing for a championship. They've taken that last part I just talked about and totally shoved it aside. And, hey, it's their decision. They can do what they want. It's their company. They're still making money. You know where this all started? The era of fans being able to wrestle. That anybody can do it, so get in there and do it. CM Punk, great performer, doesn't look like a wrestler. Daniel Bryan, one of the greatest performers of all time, really, really small. But those guys got in and got pushed as major stars. Kevin Owens looks like a fan who won a contest. Has been in wrestling for 15 years and still hasn't bothered to get into shape. These are the guys who wrestle now, and the fans accept these guys. There's just less people watching wrestling now than ever before. Is that a reason? I think it's one of them.
One final point on Brock. I really think that you really are running out of people that can realistically go up against Brock because of how legit Brock is. And the only guy that I want to see Brock still go against is the guy that I was saying for weeks leading up to Mania, and most people thought I was crazy at the time because he was just getting for squash matches, and that's Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman would be a believable, interesting comparison just because of size.
Braun Strowman is evidence that still works. Braun Strowman's just a big guy, a mean sumbitch. He kills people. People could see him as a guy who might beat Brock.
Yes.
And, and that's where the money is. And God forbid that they book Brock and Balor Balor wins. They might as well just, take the whole business and take a massive dump on it.